everybody. It's Olivia with Freedom at the Mat. Thank you for joining us again for another Well Chat conversation. So, today we are going to have a really enriching, empowering conversation with the one and only Queen of Coaching, award winning life coach and relationship coach, Phyla McMillan Antwine. Phyla, are you here with us today?
I'm here with you, Olivia, all the way. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I'm really grateful for your yes, and I want to get right into it. So, there's so many people, so many voices right now about relationships, and you are one that we at Freedom at the Mat and I as Olivia trust. So, I'm really looking forward to getting some really good gems about how to build relationships of value. I've been watching a lot of your content, the one about being wealthy women, boundary setting, and I'm grateful you're
Mhm.
here. So, the first thing I want to start with is you have coached over 500 women to
Yes.
master self care and build lives that they love. What is a common misperception or misconception, I should say, common misconception about self care that you frequently encounter? And how do you guide women to shift their perspectives from viewing self care as a luxury to an essential foundation for fulfilling life? So, it's two different questions. When we think about self care, there's a misconception around what self-care is. I want you to tackle that first. And then once you're done, I want you to get into how you can help us shift it as being something that's only for certain people to something that I deserve to have every single.
Absolutely. So, first of all, I love this question because it really allows us to get into the nuts and bolts, the meat and potatoes of this thing, right? And when most of us think about self care initially, it's about having fun. It's about the manis and the petties and the spa days and about the pampering. But what I often tell clients is that self care does not necessarily mean self indulgence, right? Self care doesn't always feel good initially. Sometimes it's challenging. Often it's painful. It forces you to take a look at yourself in ways that you would not do otherwise. So when we're talking about self-care, we are really talking about a holistic practice of taking care of yourself and whatever that means. And the way that I help clients and women to shift around this idea from self-indulgence to self-care is really positioning your wellness, right? Your emotional experience at the center. Are you feeling good on a consistent basis? Are you liking who you are and what your life looks like? And if not, then we need to take care of yourself on a deeper level that may not always include cocktails and cotton candy.
Can we talk about that?
Of course.
Wellness, right? How do you define wellness? Wellness, I've personally been on a campaign, personally and professionally, to help redefine and define for a Black woman what wellness is. Because I will never forget, I'd attended an event which will shall remain nameless. It was not for the culture. And what was positioned as wellness was like not for us, not accessible financially. It was just not for us. So when you say wellness, how do you define wellness?
So, first and foremost, wellness includes a sense of safety for me and for my clients, right? Safety within your mind, safety within your body, safety within the spaces that you are going to. I cannot be well if my safety is being threatened because that's a foundational thing that we need for just living. Right? I can't live and be comfortable if I don't feel safe. So, creating safety in the relationship dynamic that you have with yourself, in your daily practices, always making sure that that is at the foundation. And then wellness also includes the freedom to create the type of life and lifestyle that you want to have. So being able to operate as an autonomous being, that's what wellness is to me. So this functionality, this safety, this freedom, and this connectiveness, all of those are a part of what wellness is in Sacred Queen Academy and in the Queendom.
So, I've got questions that are off the script because what you just
Okay.
said is right. So, you just said something that struck me, this whole notion of the freedom to create the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
Help us peel back how we can actually begin to believe that we can have the life we want to have. Because I think there's a step that has to happen mentally, right?
Absolutely.
Before I can actually have it. So tell us more. How do we get there?
So, first, I want to be super clear that the work that I do is focused around Black women in particular and women of color. So, this idea of giving yourself permission, first of all, to live well is so important. And recognizing that so many of the women and the people in our lineage who came before us didn't have the ability to say, I want to do this, I choose this for myself, or to even ask ourselves how we feel on a daily basis, right? That was a luxury. That was a luxury. So, recognizing that the idea of wellness, the idea of cultivating a life for yourself is not only for yourself, but is part of the responsibility of us who get to live in this time, in this space, based on what our ancestors and those who came before us have given us and have built for us. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Right. It's a mental shift. It's a
Yeah.
complete mental shift. And for those who are like, I want to get there, I want you to connect with her directly to get the coaching. I don't want to give all the goodies away. So thank you so much for that. So you talk about sacred self-care.
Mhm.
How does defining self-care as sacred elevate the self-care practice?
Yeah.
And what does that sacred self-care look like in the everyday lives of very busy women like myself and like you, who
Uh-huh.
really now I've kinda gotten over it. I'm good. I'm good. I will prioritize myself. I prioritize going for my walk. I prioritize exercise. I prioritize making my meals. But I also don't have children and I also don't have a husband. So I got to put that out there. Okay. I have a lot of time to self indulge, right? You don't try to get me in there like, well, you have all this. I'm like, well, it's my time, whatever.
That's
So
right.
yeah, back to the question. Okay.
Yes.
How tell us more about sacred self-care and
Mhm.
what you mean by defining it as sacred
Yeah.
and, helping women understand how what it can look like for them, especially those of us who are very busy.
Absolutely. So I truly do believe that women are sacred, that we are sacred beings, that we come to this life to give birth, whether that's physically or spiritually or psychologically or in some other way, right? We are portals of life. We are portals of birth. This work that you're doing right here, right now, is giving life to women to show up in a new way. And so whenever you recognize something as sacred, you understand that it's holy, that it is deserving of reverence. And that's how I want women, Black women and women of color in particular, to see themselves, to see their lives as something to be celebrated, as something to be revered. And in your everyday life, you get to create those spaces, those pockets of sacredness by just honoring where you are, who you are, and what you need. Waking up every morning and simply asking, how do I feel and what do I need today? Before getting into all the busy work and all the things you're going to do for everyone else, that's how you make it sacred. Taking those pockets of alone time, pursuing your pleasure, doing things that simply feel good to you, being in your body and finding freedom at the mat. Those are the ways that we invite sacredness into our daily lives, even if we are busy. Because I got a whole husband and children, but that doesn't stop me from taking sacred care of myself.
I'm gonna pause just to say thank you, right? All of our guests who have husbands or spouses or partners and children, I just thank you even more for making the time to be a part of the Freedom at the Mat movement. So thank you so much. I honor your
Oh, it's a
time even more.
pleasure. It's a
But
pleasure. Thank you.
there's a word you said that I want to go back to that I've been exploring recently.
Mhm.
Pleasure.
Mhm.
Pleasure. Can you walk us through that? When you say pleasure, can you give us some definitions of that? I think immediately we go to sexual pleasure,
Mhm.
right? Or you may go to food pleasure. But are there some other pleasures that we want to enlighten women to find joy in?
Yeah, for sure. So I love to think about pleasure as an opportunity to indulge your senses, right? To get into the space of really feeling the wind on your skin, feeling the grass under your feet, And it does include the sexual and the physical things as well. But I think that those are some of the more lower level types of pleasure, right? Waking up and being able to feel comfortable in your body. There's a pleasure in that. Touching yourself in sensuality and not sexuality and becoming comfortable with that connection that you have with yourself, allowing folks to have access to you in connection, in conversation, in community. These sort of lifetime pleasures that we get to tap into that aren't necessarily addictions. Because when we're talking about the sexual aspect, the food aspect, often we are addicted and we are disconnecting from our pleasure in those places and spaces. So, this is about really redefining what feels good holistically and internally and not just in a one-sided way.
I love that. I love that. Can you give me one example?
Of pleasure?
Mhm. Outside of
Abs
food, sex, that
Yes.
you're right, I never thought of it like that, that we are disconnected. When we do those things, we're connecting with something that's kinda otherworldly, we're disconnecting.
Mhm, mhm. So, I am a very touchy-feely person, I've always been that way, and growing up, I realized that other people are not so comfortable with touch, right? Especially Black women if we've experienced intimate trauma and all of those things. And so for
Right.
myself, as a sexual abuse survivor as well, I had to relearn how to find pleasure in simply touching myself and not being triggered and not feeling all of these negative emotions. So, one of the things that I do is that I really indulge in my bathing practice, right? I touch myself. I have a washcloth, I have a loofah, I have the salt, I have all the things, and I make that an experience of self reverence. And when you get out the shower and you've taken time with yourself and you're clean and fresh, it makes me feel good. It feels like pleasure to me and it carries me through the rest of my day.
Thank you for that.
Of course, a little
Thank you.
TMI, but
Right. No, I love it, I appreciate it so much. Thank you. Okay, so many women struggle with setting boundaries, especially in relationships. From your experience, can you give us 2 practical ways that women can take 2 steps, 2 practical steps that women can take today to begin to establish healthier boundaries and standards about who we grant access to our lives, romantically or not, and how does that contribute to our overall sense of freedom and well-being?
mhm. So the boundary conversation is really a conversation that happens before you get into the relationship. So the first
Okay.
step is to start having those conversations with yourself when it's just you, right? What do I want to feel? What would I like my emotional experience to be when I'm in partnership, when I'm in friendship, when I'm in relationship? I would love to feel adored. I would love to feel respected. I'd love to feel appreciated, right? Creating the foundation for that. That's step one. And then the second step to that is to begin giving yourself that emotional experience on your own so that you begin to practice what that feels like. That means when someone comes into your life and they are not operating within your boundaries, you'll immediately know this is not aligned with what I want. This is not aligned with the boundaries I've created for myself. This is not aligned with the standards that I have set. And it becomes less difficult to say to someone, oh no, here's how I operate. And if you want to be in companionship with me, you'll need to operate in that capacity as well. Right. So having that conversation with yourself, establishing the experiences of your boundaries and standards with yourself. And then the bonus tip is to then communicate your boundaries to those who come into your life.
So, one thing that I think we all were aware of the Mr. Samuel's high value movement, right?
Mhm.
And trying to find what's high value, what's not high value. When you think about establishing standards, can you give us any words of encouragement that will help women who have lower self esteem for whatever reason to help us begin to believe that we too can have standards. It's okay to have standards. I understand that the dating pool over a certain age or in certain cities, certain markets, whatever, can get can get can become contaminated.
Uh-huh.
And you could feel like, you know what, I'm just gonna take this. But there's a value in setting those standards. So
Yeah.
what would you tell as the question, getting to the question, what would you tell a woman who feels like I have got certain number of kids or I have an STI, I've never been married, I'm over 45, there's no one for me, I'm just gonna take XYZ. What would you tell
Mhm.
that woman?
So, I have a little feminine energy altar behind me. These are both of my grandmothers and some other figures. And my maternal grandmother, who I'm named after, used to tell me all the time, you know, God don't like ugly, but he ain't too fond of pretty either. So we're all out here living on an equal playing field, and you have to have the courage to do what's necessary for you. Right. And I know that if you are operating in low self worth, low self esteem, courage may seem like it's really far away. But if you start to just do one simple, singular thing for yourself each day, you'll build that courage, you'll build that value, and then you'll recognize that it doesn't matter if you're ugly, if you're pretty, if you're skinny, if you're fat. We are all put here to create what we want, but you have to give yourself that permission.
Excellent. Okay. Call her up, get some coaching directly. You're like, because that whole concept still may seem foreign, right?
Yes,
To actually believe that you are worthy, and that whole thing is a whole, like, dogma of itself, so thank you for that.
of course.
So, how can strong go-getter women who
Mm,
operate in the masculine become more feminine? And this
yeah.
is a question for me, right? Because I saw in some of your work that you talk about feminine energy, like you have a feminine altar behind you and tapping into that. And I've seen some different women, some experts who are talking about femininity and tapping into the power of pink and using your hair. And I'm like, there's no way. I just never have been shaped that way. And then I've been in situations where I've been a go-getter, I've been a powerful executive in different parts of my life. So I think this is for me, right?
Mhm,
How strong go-getter women who operate in our masculine all the time,
mhm.
lot of guy friends. How can I become more feminine? And how
Yeah.
are you defining becoming more feminine? Because I think there's a lot of generalization right around this is female and this is male, right? So when you say become more feminine, what do you mean? And
Mhm.
how can femininity make me actually feel more powerful if I actually tap into it?
Yeah. So femininity gets to be defined by the woman who's owning it, right? For some women, they do feel feminine wearing pink and wearing certain hairstyles and that kind of thing. But that is the aesthetic. When I am talking about feminine energy, I'm talking about your internal compass, how you feel about yourself, how you view yourself, right? And when I think of feminine energy and what I would love to offer is to consider that feminine energy receives. So allowing yourself to be supported, asking for help, right? Giving yourself permission to put down some of the responsibilities and not always moving from effort or the idea of achievement, but simply moving in alignment with life, allowing life to support you, allowing people to do things for you, and just positioning. I'm not going to do anything today. I'm not performing today. I'm simply going to be here and allow this experience to happen. And I think for women like you and myself who are type A and who are accomplished and who are hard workers, sort of by nature and by experience, you still get to do those things, but you get to be intentional in carving out time where you are just being instead of doing. The
Got it.
being, the receiving, the support, that's really aligned to femininity. And yeah, you can wear dresses and all the things, and you can, you know, free the tits and free the cootie cat every now and then so that you aren't constricted by all the things. But it really is about your sense of allowance that helps you move into your feminine energy.
Thank you so very much. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that because I'm like, when I was exploring it first, I was like, and just hearing the whole concept a couple years ago with some of my work, I was like, that sounds really cute. And they were kind of being a tease, like as a woman, wear your pink, push your boobs up, and just go out there and use your. Men are gonna give you whatever you want. Just da da da. And I was like, that's just not. I think I would fall over in some heels. You know, I was like, I don't even know how to wear them, and that's not gonna work. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, so you saying no, just being and receiving, which
Yeah.
is the natural design for the woman,
Right. It's
will.
embodiment.
Yes, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Beautiful, thank you. All right,
Absolutely.
so in your work, you highlight the importance of putting yourself first to build a
Mhm.
life that you love. For women who have been conditioned to prioritize others, which is most every woman I know, whether you're
Yes.
taking care of aging parents like me, or you have a husband like you, a husband and
Mhm.
children like you, right?
Mhm.
What's a compassionate way to navigate the initial discomfort that might arise when we start to put our needs first? And I
Mhm.
can say before you respond, I have a few friends who are going through this right now where their children have graduated from college and they're empty nesters and they're trying to figure out now I can put myself first, what do I do? And there's this guilt and this discomfort with putting
Yeah.
myself first. How do I do it? So, what would you say to them?
So I have a college age child as well, and he is becoming a man and living his own life. And so the internal conversation of what role do I play in his life now definitely does come up, right? And so as soon as you can, the earlier the better, but at whatever point you are, you have to begin to establish a new idea of what it means to be a good woman, separate from being a good mother, separate from being a good wife, separate from being a good daughter. Because for us in the culture, we are not given the autonomy to establish womanhood, right? By our own design. You become a good woman by self sacrificing. You become a good woman by giving to everyone else. You become a good woman by being good in all these other areas. So you now have to define what being a good woman looks like for you, and I believe that in order to be a good woman, you have to begin to be good to yourself. And that may not always feel good to others, but that's okay. And little by little, you start to establish this new identity of womanhood separate from all the other roles that you've been playing.
Phyla,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So, Phyla, okay, you've spoken a word,
Okay.
as the kids say, R.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
when you say that you define womanhood by redefining what being a good woman is,
Mhm.
how do I begin? Right?
Yeah.
My entire life as a woman has been adjacent and has been an agency to others,
Mhm.
right? In particular to a man. I
Yeah.
moved to New York, New Orleans from New York 5 years ago. I was in New York for 20 years. I've been here for five. And I built a home. And in that building of a home, because I'm coming with New York energy, we get whatever
Uh-huh.
we need done. We do whatever we need to do, right? I'm not gonna say I forgot I was a woman, but it's just so much more of an equal and level playing field. And I got here, and the number of questions around where was my husband? Oh, where was
Mm.
my father? There had to be someone who was building this home for or with me. I could not just be building this home on my own. So I began to look around me and understand that many of the women, and this is nothing negative, it's just right, I moved from the north to the south. And I think it's not just a South thing. And I'm from Memphis, so I'm not at all maligning people from the South because I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. But there was this notion that for many women, um, that no matter where we are, that we are in agency with a man. So how would we begin to redefine our lives for women looking
Mhm.
at this who are like, but it's been about being an agency to an adjacency to my father, to my husband, to my children. How would you
Mhm.
begin?
So you can always have the openness, right? To make room to allow partnership and all the things to come into your life. I'm never saying that you should block any of those things. But what I am saying is that you get to cultivate those emotional spaces with yourself first. I'm also a New York woman. And one of the funniest and truest and insulting things I think I've ever heard is that New York women are some of the hardest men you'll ever meet. And I get it, right? I totally and completely get it because life is challenging and
Yeah.
you have to wear this armor. And so when I am saying cultivate womanhood for yourself, there has to be a time where you go back home, you have a conversation with yourself about what type of woman you want to be for
Mm,
yourself and in your own life, what you want
nice.
that to look like, what you want that to feel like. And you also get to imagine the things and the people that are connected to that, but it is not dependent on you having a husband or having a man or having someone or something else in your life. It is about recognizing that you are whole and you are complete, as cliche as it may sound, on your own. And when you encounter that type of energy of, but who's here with you? It's not about you, right? It's simply about the fact that not enough women have come into their feminine power. Not enough women operate in their feminine prowess. And so when you are showing up in this way, it is going to be disruptive because men and other people in general are simply not adjusted to seeing women show up in autonomy and agency. So there may be some barriers, and you will get those questions and that pushback about where's your husband and where's your father and where's your brother. But you get to recognize that you are doing this sacred work to reestablish those boundaries and those standards so that you can create a new reality for yourself.
I
Does that
mean,
make sense for you?
my mind is blown. It does. And I would say my mind is blown, and it leads very well into what is the Sacred Queen Academy, because I think that what you are purporting and what you are exalting is something that many of us need, no matter socioeconomic class, no matter education level, because as women, there has been this, the man's ahead, the woman's the neck concept, right? And many of us have bought into that. And we don't know our own light. We don't know our own power. So, can you tell
Yeah.
us more? I want you to tell us about the Sacred Queen Academy, but I do have another question for you about this feminine power.
Sure.
Um, what does feminine power look like to you?
So, what it looks like to me doesn't have to be what it looks like to you or anyone else, right? But to me,
That's true, though.
yes, yes. To me, feminine power looks like me giving myself permission to prioritize my emotional wellness, to prioritize my mental health, to prioritize my needs before clocking in as a wife, before clocking in as a mother, before clocking in as a coach. It is about recognizing that I'm valuable, that I deserve my own time, that I deserve my own care, and not having any guilt or shame around that, right? I will tell my children in a heartbeat, beat it. Not right now. Mommy needs a moment. I allow them to see my humanity because that's important for both my son and my daughter to recognize that women are human beings, that women deserve to
Yes.
live and to be free and to take care of themselves. And that is what feminine power is for me in my own life. Recognizing my power, making space for my power, and reminding those around me that women are powerful and women are human.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, sister. So, as we round this out, can you tell us more about your esteemed Sacred Queen Academy? What is it?
Yeah.
How can we become a part of the movement? And just tell us where it started and what you want it to be and how we can become
Mhm.
involved.
So, Sacred Queen Academy is a movement for women who want to feel happy, to want to feel healed, and who want to feel whole. It is my online signature coaching platform. And in it, it allows you to choose from group coaching, community aspect or one-on-one VIP coaching. So there are different tiers at different financial levels. So no matter what your socioeconomic level or background is, there is something for everyone. We focus on what I
Awesome.
call my divine 9 steps to becoming a sacred queen. And these are broken down into 3 pillars of healing, of wholeness, and of happiness. So we want to
Hmm.
resolve any of the barriers or the blocks that are here, right? We have to not get rid of, but we have to become aware of the things that may be stopping us from having the self esteem, the self value, the feminine power. And then we want to cultivate a life of happiness. That's about putting yourself first, prioritizing your needs, pursuing your pleasure, getting into your sensuality. And once you've established that, you then get to decide what wholeness looks like for you. For some women, it's enjoying their single season and just living it up. For others is wanting to position for partnership and have someone come into their life to become a couple and a family with. So it really focuses on helping women become whole beings and learning to be in good relationship with self and others.
Thank you so much. And where can we get more information about it?
Absolutely. You can find me on all social platforms at She is Phyla, SheisFila. And you can go directly to my website as well at phylaantwine.com. That's Phyla, Fila, and Antwine, just like ant and wine, ANTWINE. It has been such a pleasure, Olivia. Thank you so much.
And yes, it's been a divine pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. As I've said before, anytime that anybody gives us the time of day, I value it, but especially when you've got family priorities and business priorities. So may God continue to bless you. And for everybody who is tuned in today, I hope you've been encouraged to find your feminine power. You know, Phyla has explained to us and defined for me in particular what feminine power is. I think when we hear femininity, we think pink, frilly, nails, shoes, or whatever might come to mind. But being a woman is around connecting with yourself, connecting with your soul, redefining what it means like for you to honor yourself.
Mhm.
And while we love the men around us, we are not at all like, being haters on men, right? I have a father, I've got a boyfriend, all those things. People have husbands. This is around making sure that you show up for yourself and that you receive. For us hardcore women like myself and Miss Phyla, um, we've got to find ways to receive and just be. So I wish everybody love and light, and we'll see you on the next episode. Ashe.